Hi, everybody. Raina here from Blue Cypress, and I want to welcome you all to Book Banter once again. Tonight, I will be talking with Trang Thanh Tran. She is the author of She is a Haunting. I had the pleasure of reading this as a manuscript like almost a year ago, and finally it just came out hardcover on the shelves for everyone to get their hands on this Tuesday. And I'm super excited to talk to her this evening for Book Banter. And remember, everybody, if you have any questions or comments for me or for Trang at any time during the event, type them in the comments below and we will answer those questions in real time. So without further ado, let me welcome them onto the screen. Hi, Trang.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining me. This is very exciting for me because, like I said, I had the opportunity to read your manuscript like it was before Children's Institute last year, so it had to be close to a year ago now.
It was like February or March or something like that.
Yes.
You probably got it as like a stack of paper, right?
Yes. It was one of the first ones after COVID that they asked me, do you want an ebook or do you want me to send you the print? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can get a print again. I'll take a print manuscript. Because for like a couple of years it was an e-document or nothing. And I'm like, I read more e-documents from 2020, March 2020 to I guess March of last year than I'd ever read before. I'm not a big e-reader.
Yeah, and it's so hard on your eyes, so.
Yeah, and I read in bed, which you'd think that was better, but if I touch it, if I like lean sideways and touch it, then pages have gone and it's crazy. Yeah. It's not my favorite. But I'm so glad that I was able to get my hands on it because it was one of my favorite books last year. And I guess this year as well, since it just came out. It's kind of weird when you're part of that process like so early in advance, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I read this a year ago. You even blurbed it. It was on the arcs, and like now it's finally out.
Yes, right. That's always fun too. I know when for you especially, like you see it even as like as an arc. It must just be so exciting to like see it in sort of book form.
Yeah, it's like, look at it. It's in my brain, and now it's a stack of paper. So.
How long did it take you to write this? Like, what's your process?
Oh, I mean, it was wild, honestly. I started writing in 2020, and it was around October. I've been working on something else, and it just wasn't working. And I have always been like a big horror movie fan, and it was like spooky season. I'm like, why don't you just try something really, really different, right? And I started writing this book, and I try not to like plan too much because I felt like I was getting caught up in the crosshairs of like, oh, like I have to make every chapter do this or that or whatever. Yeah. But it actually happened really quickly. I wrote it in about 3.5 months, and then I edited for like another 3 to 4 months before like I signed with my agent. So it was like a very quick process, and it was really surprising because usually I'm a slow writer. My first drafts are like really lean and like, but yeah, like somehow it happened.
Well, I mean, you knew it was meant to be then. Like if it all just comes together. And you were saying you don't plan very much, so but that's a pantser, they call it.
I'm sort of like an in-between. Like I knew what I wanted the ending to be, and I knew like I always have to know what feeling I'm trying to invoke right at the very end. Like how do I want readers to feel when they like finish the book? And so like I'll try to have a few moments that's like, okay, these like 3 moments that, for example, like happen with Jade's dad or something, like, you know, happen here and here and here. And then I kind of like use a flashlight, just like write my way towards that little tent pole of a moment. And that helps because it's like, I have somewhere I want to go, but I get to discover how it happens. And so like that, it still pleases me because it's like, I'm also figuring out the story as it goes. Right.
So, Wynn asks, will you have signed books for sale? Okay, so I'm going to answer that one. We don't have signed books on the page books, but I believe we have some book plates coming to us, and I'm going to make sure that they are on their way. at the end of this. So we will in the bookstore have some signed book plates soon, and I can let you know when that is. Now, the next question is definitely something you're going to have to answer. Do you have any book signings in Boston?
I don't. My last in-person event is tomorrow in Atlanta.
So that is your last. So how many events did you do for the book?
So I'm only doing 3 in-person events, and then I'm obviously here with you, and then on Monday I'll do another virtual event with another indie.
Nice. Well, I don't know how often you make the loop down, but New Orleans isn't that far.
I know. And I was in New Orleans for that conference, or the trade show where I met you in person, and I was like, I really want to go to the bookstore. I really wanted to visit, but it's so hard when you're traveling, to especially when you're only there one day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when you're in a town for something else, for a convention or a conference or something, it's hard. Everybody always says like, "Oh, you've got to go here and you've got to go there." It's like you don't understand. Even if I'm in town for 3 days, like I'm looking at Children's Institute coming up now, which is going to be in Milwaukee. I mean, it's from 7 a.m. to, if you go out to dinner with like a publisher or somebody, I mean, you're talking about 9:30 at night. Where am I going? I'm going nowhere.
You're going to bed.
I'm going to bed after. Right? If it's not like on the hotel grounds, I'm probably not going to make it there. It's just too hard. You think you're going to, and then like, no.
Yeah. So I really would love to do like a little trip and just visit a bunch of indie bookstores, because it's always so fun, because they're all a little bit different, right? Like, and they have a different vibe, and it's just so fun. And I'm collecting t-shirts from all like the bookstores. I just love them so much. I'm wearing one from You and Me, the store in Chinatown. But yeah, I just love going in and just like buying way too much stuff.
That's what gets me anytime I go to a town, I'm always like trying to visit the bookstores, and I can get the books. That's like, I can order the books at my own bookstore. So I'm always getting their branded sticker or koozie or shirt or tote. Like I have a huge collection of all like the branded bookstore stuff, because that's why I want to support them. And that is a great, a great way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm also, what was it? I got, oh my gosh. I try and get a bunch of stickers and my garbage can. This sounds bad, but actually it's great advertising. Okay. Let me back up one. It's actually great because I live right in the city. So I live like 6 blocks from the French Quarter. There's tons of walking traffic, and the garbage can is right here next to my gate. So it's actually covered in all of these like things that I love, like book stickers and bookstore stickers and all of that. And often I will see people, I can hear them walking by, and they'll say, oh my gosh, look at that. East Bank Books. What? Like they relating, like they're here on vacation and they're seeing it. So send me your bookstore stickers, because I'll put them on my garbage can.
Yeah, it's almost like a fixed art piece right at your gate. Do people take pictures with it? You just like walk outside and someone just like taking a selfie?
That would be amazing. I have not seen anyone taking a selfie with my garbage can, but I would put more stickers on it, and maybe that's my goal now, is to get people to get a tourist to take a picture with my garbage can.
Yeah, you got to start like some tag on social media, like, I don't know, art trash or
I'm into this, like sticker trash sticker. I don't know, but I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
And that's a good idea. No, that's great. But also, I never lose my garbage can. So there's no neighbor that can like accidentally take my garbage can.
Yeah.
Let's get that. So tell me, like, what was your inspiration? You said write a spooky book, but that can't be just it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the biggest part of the inspiration is just, when I really asked myself, like, what are you most afraid of? And it was like having, and it wasn't like, ghosts, it wasn't werewolves. It was like having conversations with my family about where we came from, and like having, like very vulnerable, intimate conversations about like our history or our feelings, or like coming out, for example. And so I wanted to write about a very specific Vietnamese American teenager who was going through these things, who was sort of like at the threshold of becoming an adult, And I feel like teens are often pressured, like, you're turning 18, you're going off to college, decide on your major, decide what you're going to do for the next 4 years. And like, but they're literally just 18. And like, you know, the main character thinks like, I've got it all figured out and I'm going to, do this in college. But she's hiding all these things about herself, right?
Mhm.
So like the inspiration really came from like that moment of just feeling like you have to have it all figured out, even though you don't feel like you're enough of anything. And like the second part of the inspiration is obviously haunted houses, specifically the haunted houses in the real place in Dilac where the book is taking place, these French colonial homes that are abandoned there.
Yeah.
And just, because it's in the middle of the pandemic and like, I was stuck inside. I was like, all right, let's just make it into a book. Let's just draw inspiration from that.
So I learned a lot about post-colonial Vietnam from your book.
Mm-hmm.
That caught me off guard, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't, but there were so many things that are you just kind of mention in your book, and then I'm like, wait, what is she referencing? When did that happen? What are the details of that? Clearly that was bad. What and then I'm Googling and I'm reading like all of these stories, and it's twofold. On one side, I thought, God, I should have already known this. But then on the other side, like it made me fall in love with your book even more because it's not, it's a young adult fiction horror novel. And yet I feel like I have learned so much about the world and things I feel like I should know and history. Because you sparked that, this book sparks that. And I thank you.
Thank you for reading. I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, anytime that you're talking about a person, even a fake person, it's like they have history, right? Their family have history. And so it was really interesting to dive into that where it's like, okay, well, what are the things from their past that's haunting them, right? What are the things that's missing from their family history because of all these events that happened in when the French colonized Vietnam, and how are the people in the present day still feeling it, right? And I walked into the book knowing that I wasn't going to write a historical fiction. It's not meant to teach you anything, but I wanted to provide the context for like what this family is going through and why it still hurts them.
I loved how you, without writing it from the dad's perspective in any way, you really do get both generations of story with this history, and they both feel it in a very different way. The daughter doesn't really know much about it until she shows up, and then but the dad is steeped in it, like so much so that he went back to Vietnam for reasons, right, that we never really 100% are sure, like. And he's feeling this history in a completely different way. But as an adult reading it, I feel like I could feel both. Like I could see it from both of them and how they're trying to live with this history and learn about it.
Yeah.
Or deny it, depending on, or just press that down and
Yeah. And like Jade and her dad's relationship is like one of the most central things to the book. And that's because I really wanted to show like, even when you're so different on the surface and you're dealing with things in a different way, and Jade is very angry at her dad, and you know that from the very start, from the very beginning. And I wanted to show like, even when you're very different, like what things do you do to try to accomplish a goal that makes you similar, right? So even though Jade and her dad, want different things, they're still doing things that either hurt each other or like just provide obstacles. And sometimes they make really similar choices too. The choice to hurt each other or not tell each other things, right? It may be coming from a different place, but they're choosing actions that are very similar.
Yeah, that having a teenager who's close to Jade's age, I starting to see that perspective a little bit more, where you as a parent, you make these decisions, and when they're younger, you make it to protect them,
Yeah.
But then as they get older, why are we still making the decisions? And the dad is still making a lot of those decisions that wouldn't have made sense maybe 10 years ago when she's like 8. And now why are we still hiding these things? But like, and then of course she's hiding because she's a teenager and she doesn't know how to say them out loud.
Yeah. It's like no one ever taught her how to deal with her feelings.
Right. Well, clearly, yes. Her example is hiding all of that and moving away for a while. So, okay. When says, will you write more books with Vietnamese representation?
Yeah. So like my second one right now that I'm working on is another YA horror, and it also centers another Vietnamese American family.
Nice. I know you said you didn't. I mean, this isn't historical fiction. It's not at all. But see, when you wrote it, what were you thinking about making sure that things were very accurate, or so you weren't trying to teach someone that, but if they learned something, like, do you have that in mind at all?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I kept all the history the same. Like I didn't invent like new events. Like I didn't invent, things like that. So I was really careful in trying to figure out like, okay, so when were the French in Đài Lạt? And Đài Lạt is the central highlands in Vietnam, and it's like the temperature is very moderate. And it was in the early 1900s that the French were like, we need a vacation home from the tropical weather. And they went up there, right? So I have these like dates in mind where I'm like, okay, well, this happened here and this happened here. And then I try to build a story of like, what are the types of people that existed then, right? And how does that relate? Like, I wanted to provide context in the story where it's like, these things really happen, but the people are fake. But, I just wanted to make sense,
FYI, it works. It all works out. Like it's real and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Linda asked how long it took you to write the book, which we covered that, but I'm going to shift it a little bit. You said you're working on your second book.
Yes.
So is that coming as quickly as your first book? No pressure.
No, it's not. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. It's not. I mean, I guess if I had one easy book child, I'm meant to have a difficult book child now. So the second one is like, it is rough. It is taking me through it.
So the follow-up, the second one is, do you have a favorite book or movie about a haunted house?
Ooh, favorite book. Okay, so I think my favorite book right now, and I swear this entire week I've been talking about this book, and I feel like the author should just hire me as like their hype person. Isabel Cañas, The Hacienda, my favorite book from last year. And I've been saying it, hot priest in a haunted house, favorite book. And in terms of movie, I think I'll go for TV show. I really love The Haunting of Hill House TV show. That, it reinterprets Shirley Jackson's book. It's just such a wonderful focus on like family, and it was a huge inspiration for me when I was writing, a book about a family being haunted. So
I thought they did a great job.
Yes.
I don't know how, like, I don't need to explain it to people. That's not what I'm here to do. But it is very, like, there are some differences, but it captures the essence of that book so well.
Yes.
I recommend, that's one of the ones I recommend the book, and I recommend the TV show.
Yes.
Like, equally. Like, they're so
good. And like they have a common core, but it feels a little bit different, and they're both wonderful in their different ways. I think I like read the book and then I like watched the show, and I'm just like, this is just so good. You're just both masters at like tension and atmosphere.
Oh, and okay, until you mentioned that just now, I hadn't really thought about it, but like the house, the whatever it is just infiltrating those people, and your book has some of that.
Yeah.
Has some of that in it. I'm into it.
Yeah.
So do you believe in ghosts?
I do believe in ghosts. What about you?
Yeah. No, I do. I do believe in ghosts. I think like my dad passed away when I was 11, and I think that has a lot to do with it because like I remember from like sort of that point on, I'm like, okay, well, there's like I think as a younger person, I probably built this sort of world to have somewhere for like him to be or maybe interact. But then from there, I've like gone out and listened to stories and read books and all of this stuff that I just like. I don't see why I would rule it out. It sounds fun. Yeah. Oh my goodness. When will we receive? Okay, I want these. But Wynn also says, when will we receive the She is a Haunting character cards from the library purchase request? Are they talking about the postcards?
Yeah.
You have some? I have some.
Oh, I don't have. Oh wait, I have some right here. Yes. So the campaign closes tomorrow, and then I'm gonna mail them probably this weekend. So hopefully they'll get to people. Here's one of them.
Yes.
Here's Jade and then Ryan. Yeah. So I'll mail them very soon.
They're so good. So good. Okay. They're calling them character cards. Are they the postcards, or did we make them smaller? Did you make them smaller?
No, they're the postcards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They're really good. Who did the art for those?
It's this. Their name is Jax, and their handle on Twitter is Gilded Ruin, and they're fantastic. They do amazing art. They do a lot of sapphic art, fantasy, just very beautiful work.
All right, I am typing this in right now. Twitter to see what I can find. Oh, I found them. I'm gonna put their Twitter link right in here.
Perfect.
Because the art is amazing. So you should check it out. Did you know them, or did they were you paired together with them?
No, I did not know them at all. And it was actually just something that I wanted to do. I think it was even before I even like sold the book. I was like, I want some character art of my characters, right? Treat myself. And so like I just found them on Twitter, and they had their commissions open, and I reached out.
Those are the best stories, really. Just reach out. There's some advice to everyone. Just reach out.
Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. It ends with a yes, or that's amazing, or something more not. That's something I learned from actually doing this show because before I never would have seen myself as a person who would ask someone, hey, do you want to be on a live stream with me? That just feels weird. And then I just started, because you think that people will say no. But you ask, and like it's 95% yes, let's find a date. And that's amazing. And you're like, did you just say yes? Is that real?
Yes.
Is that cool? Yes, they did. Oh my gosh. I love it. So what's been your favorite part so far about this whole book, having a published book project, I guess?
I actually think it's like seeing meeting booksellers and seeing their reactions to the book, because it's like they know books, right? And they know what people want to read, and like it's just been really exciting seeing the reactions to the book and feeling like, oh, it might actually reach the audience that I want it to reach, right? Because you write a book and it's like it's great for yourself and you should be proud, but you also like particularly want the reader who you had in mind to pick up the book, right?
Well, I can tell you this. I had to bring this home because this copy here I had to bring home because we sold the other ones that we ordered, and I wanted to have one for the camera.
Yeah.
So, like, I have my 2 arcs and the one you signed for me, and that's what I keep on my personal shelf. That's what I read, and and my stuff. But we sold the little stack that we had, and I was like, oh crap, I need to take this for today. Like, I'll bring it back tomorrow. If somebody wants it, they have to give their name and number. So I can show it on camera. So hopefully that is happening everywhere. I'm sure that it is.
Yeah. I've been visiting like indies, like when I drop by where I'm like doing events and stuff, and like I have seen them on shelf, and I'm just like, I can't believe it. It feels real. Finally, it feels real. It's not just in my computer anymore.
Right. I've had some poetry published and stuff, and it is kind of crazy when someone goes, "Oh, that's good. I'll put it in my magazine." I'm like, "Okay." You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think it's that good? All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
See. Always interested in writing a book. That's good. So,
Oh, you cut out for a second, so I didn't catch what you said.
No. Were you always interested in writing?
Mm.
And when did you find out you were interested in writing a book?
Let's see. I mean, I feel like obviously most writers start from loving reading, and reading is such a magical experience. And I think I got my first book, like the first book that was like, this is so cool, like in elementary school. And I didn't know that you could be a writer then, but it was such a magical experience, like just being lost in a book. And I think it was middle school before I realized that, oh, people can write books, and like it's it's a person who comes up with these things. So I wanted to be a writer since I was pretty young. But when I was 18, my mom was like, oh, you can't be a writer, and it comes from a place of love. I totally understand it, because if my mom's a refugee, came from Vietnam, right? And really value stability, being able to take care of yourself, being able to, and you can't make art if you are hungry, if you don't have a place to live. Those are all true things. And so I took a break for a really long time, and I did other things. I was like, let me just do this 9 to 5, like 9 to 5, something stable, something to like really give myself like the peace of mind, I guess. And I mean, and then for like 10 years, like I for the longest time, I couldn't even read books anymore, because it just made me so, and it stinks. It just made me so sad and jealous. And I hated that. I hate that for myself. But eventually, I had this experience. My brother had passed away, and I was like sitting in New York City in Bryant Park, and it was like very beautiful weather. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like at the end of my life, do I just want to say I did a 9 to 5? I just did it. But at that point, I had stability, right? So I made a plan. I was like, okay, I'm going to save a lot. I'm going to try to save as much money as I can. And then in 2020, I was like, I'm going to give myself 1 year to focus just on writing. Just because I am that type of person. I am an all or nothing type of person, obsessive, and just need that time, right? And that's how I did it. Like I just took the chance. I was like, all right, 1 year to give it my all. And thankfully it worked out.
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of people, like during COVID too, that's also a moment where people were like, okay, I've had this dream.
Mm-hmm.
But at any moment, up to that point, people are like, I've got time. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, this is a thing that can happen that isn't just in like movies and books and stuff. And then you're like, where's my year? Let's find the time, because yeah, for sure. Okay. So Wynn is asking, what part of Vietnam were you and your family from? Or you or your family?
So my family is from like the southern part of Vietnam, from South Vietnam. And they were in like a very rural area. And my mom said that she went back recently, and like nothing looks the same anymore. I mean, things have changed so much. She came over here in 1988, and it's like everything has changed. I mean, a lot of stuff have become like cities. There's actually roads now. So like, I don't know the specific name of the town, but it was like outside of Saigon.
I mean, that's a long time. That for things, lots of things. Like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. Like the road that I grew up on was a dirt road. It would have been a dirt road. Like in the middle. Now that in the middle of the city. I am out in the middle of nowhere.
You said it was in the middle of nowhere. It cut out for a second again.
It was in 88. It would have been like out in the middle of nowhere, basically. Like you'd have to drive into town, and now it is town.
Yeah.
So have you been to visit?
No, I haven't. And that was part of the inspiration for the book because it's one of the things I had been avoiding for so much of my life was like anytime my mom was like, "Do you want to go to Vietnam with me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm busy." And part of it is because, okay, I was born in Philadelphia and I did grow up speaking Vietnamese, but my Vietnamese is like not great. You can tell that
Yeah.
like I do not have command of the language. And it's just one of those things where it's like it's similar to what Jade's going through, like, "Oh, I'm not enough," like,
Yeah.
I am American, and I'm Vietnamese, but, I didn't grow up in Vietnam and, like, you know, there's a community here, but it's not the same type of community, and people know, like, when you go back, people know if you're from America, obviously, right?
Hmm.
And I feared that a lot, and that's kind of, like, what motivated me to write the book, but now I'm like, "I'm gonna go back." I've dealt with the demons in this book, and now I'm going to go back. But it's a matter of like finding time because if you're going to do that long travel, you really should
Oh
be
yeah.
there for like 3 or 4 weeks. And not only that, like it was in the middle of COVID and they had a lot of restrictions on traveling. So, and my mom hasn't been back recently either. And I really want to make the trip with her.
That would be really nice. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know your family, but that sounds it sounds really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is interesting how like people can tell you're not from there, even
Mm-hmm.
even though like I mean I've traveled in Europe and like you look around and like we kind of look the same, but for I'm clearly carrying myself differently. I do not live
Yeah.
here. Like I don't know what it is necessarily, but I do not have a camera around my neck. I don't, to me, don't
Yeah.
stand out as not being here, but clearly you're not. And of course, I can tell the same thing. People come to visit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what it is about you, but you're not from here, are you? Like I can tell
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, Wynn has another question. What advice would you give to people who relate to Jade from the book? Oh, so you give advice to yourself.
Oh,
Go ahead.
advice.
That's a tough question
I
because
mean, I don't know if it's advice or if it's more like reassurance, right? Because, Jade at the beginning of the story does not feel like she's enough of anything. She's not American enough. She's not queer enough, all of these, or straight enough, all of these things. And what I wanted to convey through the book is that you are enough no matter where you are in your journey of coming out, of never coming out, of figuring yourself out and where you belong in the world. Like you are enough, like of a person, and your voice deserves to be heard. You deserve to be loved. And it's okay to be 17. It's okay to be 45 and still figuring things out. Like there is always time.
yeah, um, that message rings through the whole book to me.
Mhm.
Um, and even at the end, the end is, I mean, it's a horror book, so the end is not all peaches and roses.
Mhm.
But it's she's more comfortable with herself, but it's
Mhm.
not in a magical way. It's just so here's another thing I just loved about it. Not in a magical way that is unbelievable. Weirdly enough, for a book that has a
Yeah.
haunted house in it,
Yeah.
but not, and sometimes you read books and there's all these things at the beginning and then somehow they magically fix them all at the end, like a
Mhm.
like a sitcom, and
Mhm.
those can be fun, but they're
Mhm.
not believable to me. and
Mhm.
and so for all of the supernatural type stuff that does
Mhm.
come into play in your book, I felt like the characters were really like their journeys are very believable, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted them to feel real. I wanted them to feel like a family that you know.
I feel like in real life, you do get yourself in these situations where you just sort of like are following this thing you're supposed to do, or this thing you have to
Mhm.
do to get this thing you want. And you're going and going. And then all of a sudden, you're like, things have hit the fan, and you're like,
Oh
how,
yeah.
how did that happen? What am I doing? Well, I guess I'll just go to my bedroom and close the door. And then like that'll fix it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have like a built-in thing, like how to deal with these big things that are coming at you, even as an adult, like you're saying, like whether you're 17 or like 45, you don't have like usually the tools to just deal with everything as it's coming at you. So like this just sort of, and then you're just, the next thing is happening and the next thing is happening and you're still in it and you're just going along. So that's really that happens to Jade, I feel like, in this book. She has to make these decisions but doesn't know what they should be, and a lot of times she's just like, I'm gonna go read, look out the window and everything's fine today.
Text the cute girl, that kind of thing, right? And I think, and when I was thinking and I was writing this book, I was like, we are inside our houses so much. And also, and as you said, like, when you're a teenager, or when you're an adult, like when you can't deal with things, often you retreat to your room, right? To find comfort, to find space. But what if the house is watching you the whole time? What if it wants things and it's feeling what you want, right? And I felt like that was such a fun thing to do, where it's like, this place that should be comforting is actually kind of creepy.
I love that. I'm gonna use that in selling it. What if this place that is supposed to be comforting your house is just kind of creepy?
It's watching you all the time.
All right, so these are a couple of great actually questions to wrap up on as we do wrap up. So Wynn has one more question. Do you have any upcoming books that you're excited to read? So things that aren't out yet?
Okay. Again, I'm going to be Isabel Kanya's super hyper fan. She has Vampires of Elmort coming out in the fall. I'm really, really excited about that. My friend Alex Brown has a book called Damned If You Do. It's about it's a theater kid making a deal with a demon, and it's so funny. And that comes out, I think, this summer. I'm also in this anthology with other BIPOC authors who are reinterpreting different tropes. It's like all set on one Halloween night, and that's called Night of the Living Queers, and that comes out, I think, like early September.
All right, you have to at least get that one linked down here, because I haven't heard of that yet, but I'm super gonna read it.
It's so good.
August, I guess the very, very end of August is the date that it has. August 29th, I think. I think that it has. Okay. All right. So then we have one final question from Brandon. In today's climate, how did it feel to write a queer book?
That's so rough. It really is. I have to be honest that in 2020, when I was writing the book, I tried to shut off as much as possible, like everything that was going on, and just get into that obsessive mode to write the book, because I want the book to exist the way that it should exist, which is freely and how I wanted it to feel, right? I'm writing to try and capture this feeling. I didn't want to think about, well, what if it gets banned? What if people did this? But yes, after I finished the book and, it was going out and all these bans were happening, that was when I was like, now it is like, now it was coming to me where I'm like, this is going to be banned in schools. This is going to be, all these different things. And it's really scary. It's really scary that it's happening. But the things that, I guess what brings me a little bit of comfort is when people who are working against school bans are saying, it's a very small subset of parents who are making a lot of noise. So really, it's just hopefully just a very small number of people making a lot of noise, and everyone else can band together and make even more noise, right? So really paying attention to the school board and going to these meetings. And I find comfort in that.
Yeah, I would definitely say, from seeing it from a little bit of a different side, is that the people that are against book banning need to be as loud as the few people who are for it. Because the few people that are for it, assuming they have the best intentions at heart for their child.
Mhm.
That's what they're speaking from. And when we stand up for our kids, we are loud. So this is with the best intentions, right? This is assuming they have this is the best intention. They're loud.
Yeah.
If we're not, then they will, they'll be louder than we are. So that's important. And I say this to everyone who ever watches this and is watching it right now, that remember things that have happened in the past. Don't stay home.
Yeah.
Write your congressman. Like make sure your voice is being heard on the other side, because that's what's gonna keep that from happening as much as possible. But you are right. It is a smaller group. They just get the publicity.
Shameless yelling. Shameless yelling. We also need to be shameless.
Exactly. But I will say I've very much enjoyed putting your book in people's hands this week, and I'm going to continue to do that, taking it to book fairs and to school fairs and things of that nature, because it is a great read. It is an important read for multiple reasons, and it is good to have queer characters in books that I can just hand to them and go, hey, haunted house story, and they're going to read it and they're going to love it and they're going to enjoy it, and they're absorbing so much about the world that they might not have otherwise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Nguyen says, thank you for the event. Thank you for attending, Nguyen. Tran, thank you for creating a book with Vietnamese and queer representation. It means so much to them and to me and to everyone else. Everyone, I put the link to purchase Trang's book from Blue Cypress in the comments. Please do that. We'll get some signed book plates. And everyone, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.